The Nuggets officially took Game 1. The Clippers gave up 20 turnovers, and the Nuggets turned those into 24 points. That's not a small swing. It's a point every minute kind of situation that kept Denver alive even when their shooting wasn't perfect. Kawhi Leonard coughed it up 7 times, all by himself. That's a buffet of giveaways from the guy they rely on to be steady. And one of those came with just over 33 seconds left in regulation when the Clippers were up by 1. Total backbreaker. Then James Harden handed over another one with less than 10 seconds left in overtime. The man literally dropped the inbounds pass into Russell Westbrook's hands like it was a gift. Denver swiped 11 steals overall. Jokic had 3, Westbrook had 2. The Nuggets outscored the Clippers by 8 in points off turnovers. That's a hard number to come back from, especially when you're handing over possessions like coupons at a grocery store. In overtime, Denver's offense ran hot. They put up 14 points in those 5 minutes, compared to the Clippers' 12. Sounds close, but the numbers underneath told the story. The Nuggets had an offensive rating of 128.6 in overtime. That means they were scoring at will. Meanwhile, the Clippers sat at 109.1. That's solid, but not enough when the other team's cooking like that. Jokic dropped in 4 points during OT and knocked down 2 clutch free throws with 6.5 seconds left that locked it all down. Westbrook hit a corner 3 earlier in the extra time that mattered big, especially when you line it up with his steal on Harden to end it. Jokic nearly triple-doubled his way through the game. 29 points, 12 assists, 9 boards. Just 1 rebound away from another stat line headline. But what stood out more was the plus 10 while he was on the floor. Denver's offensive rating when he played was a sharp 123.5. Even though he only shot 7 for 20, the man's passes generated 32 points. That's not a stat you gloss over. He even set up Westbrook's late regulation 3 with under 24 seconds left. When Jokic wasn't scoring, he was playing traffic cop for buckets. And then Westbrook. Man had a game full of extremes. He scored 15 points, pulled down 8 rebounds, with 4 of those on the offensive end. That means extra chances for Denver that really mattered in a 2-point game. He also had 3 assists and those 2 steals. And he led the second unit that outscored the Clippers bench 23-13. Yeah, his shooting was rough. 5 for 17 isn't ideal, but he hit 2 of his 6 attempts from deep, including a big one in regulation. He ended with a plus 7, which lined up with that second unit spark. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during this playoffs. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, Denver owned the offensive glass. 12 offensive rebounds turned into 18 second chance points. 4 of those boards were snagged by Westbrook, which is wild for a guard. On the other end, the Clippers managed to shoot 36.4% from deep, knocking down 12 of 33 threes. Not terrible, but Denver contested 75% of those in the fourth quarter and overtime. That's locked-in defense, especially when every possession starts to matter more. Aaron Gordon got 0 attention in the headline stats, but he clamped Kawhi Leonard in overtime. 0 field goal attempts for Leonard in the last 5 minutes. That's not nothing. That's erasing your best scorer when it counts. Denver starters had a net rating of plus 12 in the 18 minutes they shared the floor. Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. That group just worked. Meanwhile, the Clippers starters shot 50% from the field, which sounds nice, but their plus-minus was -8. Again, turnovers dragging everything down. In the final 2 minutes and 24 seconds of regulation, the Nuggets were nearly perfect. They scored on 5 out of 6 possessions. That stretch included Westbrook's huge 3 and a Jokic dish to Brown for a bucket that helped secure the lead heading into overtime. On the other side, the Clippers managed to hit just 1 of 4 shots in the last 2 minutes of overtime and gave the ball away twice. That's how you lose games. Not in the blowouts, but in the sloppiness of those final possessions. The advanced metrics told the rest of the story. Denver's offensive rating was 114.1. Clippers had 110, so Denver's offense edged them out. Even though the Clippers were slightly better in true shooting percentage, 58.1% compared to Denver's 56.3. But the assist to turnover ratio, that was a big one. Nuggets had a 2.18 ratio. The Clippers, just 1.25. That's a canyon. You can't give away the ball that often and not pay for it. And when things got tight, Denver stayed cleaner. Their effective field goal percentage in clutch moments, last 5 minutes, was 52.6%. Clippers were at 44.4, not even close. That's execution versus panic. That's what it looked like. The Nuggets' pace was just a tick faster at 98.2 compared to 97.8 for LA, but that barely registered. What mattered was what they did when they had the ball. And what they did was capitalize. They didn't waste trips. They didn't fumble late passes. They turned defense into points, kept the turnovers in check, and let Jokic do what he does best, control the game even when his shot's not falling. No fireworks, no viral highlights needed, just stats doing the heavy lifting. That's how Denver took the win. But this game comes down to a few factors. Let's start with Jokic and Murray. When Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray combined for big totals in rebounds and assists, the Nuggets shift into a whole different gear, one where math and chaos both work in their favor. Since the 2021 season, whenever Jokic grabs at least 8 rebounds and Murray dishes at least 5 assists in the same game, the Nuggets hold a ridiculous record of 112 wins and 49 losses. That's nearly a 70% win rate. But it gets even spicier. In the games where they combine for at least 15 rebounds and 15 assists, that record jumps to 48 wins and just 12 losses. That's 80%. You could basically just give them the win and let everyone go home early. In the 2023 playoffs alone, Denver went 12-2 when the duo combined for those kinds of numbers. That includes a perfect 5-0 run in the finals. No need for inspirational speeches or half-court heaves when your stars are stacking stats that consistently translate to win. And it's not just that they're winning, it's how. The offensive rating, when Jokic hits 8 rebounds and Murray gets 5 assists, a searing 124.3. For context, that would be the best in league history. Their assist rate in those lineups, 68.5%. That's in the top 2% of every single lineup that stepped onto an NBA court. And they're not just jacking up wild shots either. Their effective field goal percentage in those games, 58.9. Clean, efficient, lethal. Now look at when they go beyond just being solid and start dropping dimes. When they combine for 15 or more assists, Denver averages 121.8 points per game. That's nearly 7 more than their season average, and 62.3% of those made shots come off assists, blowing past the league average of 55.1. So yeah, the ball is moving, and guys are scoring in rhythm. This is how you cook without burning the pan. On the boards, the pattern holds. When Jokic grabs double-digit rebounds and Murray chips in at least 5, the Nuggets enjoy a rebound margin of plus 6.2 per game. That's not just out-rebounding the other team, that's squeezing extra possessions out of every quarter. The offensive rebound rate climbs to 32.1%, way up from their regular 26.4. That alone leads to an extra 4.2 second chance points per game. And those are brutal for opponents because they deflate the defense and juice up the momentum. In the 2023 finals, whenever both Jokic and Murray grabbed 10 or more boards, Denver posted a net rating of plus 11.3. That's dominance in high-stakes games. It's not subtle, and it's definitely not luck. Then there's the playmaking chemistry. When Jokic hands out 8 or more assists and Murray adds 5 or more, 67.2% of the Nuggets' field goals are assisted. That's elite movement and spacing. They also managed to run one of the league's most unselfish offenses, featuring only 9.1% of their possessions in isolation. That's almost unheard of. Instead of one guy dribbling for 20 seconds, you get constant movement, sharp cuts, and clean looks. The numbers go deeper. This duo averages 25.3 potential assists per game. That means, on top of their actual dimes, they're setting up teammates with high-quality looks all game long. No other pair in the league generates more. Murray's drives matter too. He averages 5.4 per game. And when Jokic is the trailer on those drives, Denver scores an outrageous 1.23 points per possession. That kind of synergy is rare. Murray forces the defense to collapse, and Jokic floats into open space like a lumbering genius. Clutch situations only crank this up. In the last 5 minutes of close games, with the score within 5 points, Denver's offensive rating jumps to 128.6 with both Jokic and Murray on the court. The assist-to-turnover ratio in those moments, a monstrous 5.8. They don't just stay composed, they slice teams apart. Their effective field goal percentage in clutch time hits 52.1, which basically says, we make good decisions while you panic. And when both of them are cleaning the glass late, it gets even worse for the other team. In games where both log at least 5 rebounds in the fourth quarter, Denver's record since 2022 is 23-6. That's almost 80% again. So not only are they sharing the ball, they're ripping it down on the boards to close things out. On the defense side, their rebounding directly kills transition opportunities. When Jokic and Murray grab a combined 10 or more defensive rebounds, the Nuggets hold opponents to just 9.1 fast break points per game. That's down from the usual 13.8. Denver's defensive rating in those games climbs up to 109.2. That would place them among the top 4 in the league. So yeah, their offense is scary, but it's their ability to deny second chances and control pace that locks up games. Even more telling is how all this affects the team's overall efficiency. When Jokic and Murray rack up high rebounds and assists together, Denver's net rating jumps to plus 12.4. Their regular baseline is plus 6.1. That's double the impact. Their assist percentage goes from 61.2 up to 68.5. Offensive rebound rate spikes to 32.1 from 26.4. Even clutch win percentage climbs from 62.1 to 79.3. These numbers don't whisper, they scream. Pace gets a little bump too, from 97.2 to 98.7. That might not seem like a lot, but it means more possessions and more chances for these two to work their magic. It's not that Denver wins, because these two get big stats. It's that when they do, the whole system runs the way it's supposed to. Jokic as the anchor, Murray as the engine, and everyone else falling into perfect alignment. The Nuggets don't rely on flukes. They rely on precision, timing, and a combination of talent that most teams just can't deal with for 48 minutes. When both Jokic and Murray are racking up rebounds and assists, they're not just padding their numbers. They're bending the shape of the game. They're dictating tempo, owning the paint, and sharing the ball so efficiently it turns into art. Except it's the kind that ends with scoreboards getting ugly. So if you're looking for a blueprint on how to make this team struggle, you'd better find a way to keep Jokic from boarding and Murray from dealing dimes. Because when those two check off those boxes, the Nuggets aren't just good, they're nearly unbeatable. And there's not much in the stats that says otherwise. And besides that, Aaron Gordon was great. When Aaron Gordon goes off offensively, the Nuggets stop being just a good team and start looking like a problem nobody really wants to deal with. The numbers aren't subtle. In the 2023 to 2024 stretch, whenever Gordon scores 20 points or more, Denver wins nearly 80% of those games. 18-5 in the regular season, 7-2 in the playoffs. That's not a cute little hot streak. That's a full-blown pattern. When Gordon shows up with his scoring pants on, Denver doesn't just win, they dominate. Look at the net rating jump. When Gordon hits the 20-point mark, the Nuggets' net rating spikes to plus 12.4. That's more than double their season average of plus 6.1. And the offense? It climbs to a rating of 122.1. If that number held over a full season, it would be the best offensive rating in league history. So yeah, Aaron Gordon scoring big is not just a bonus, it's a full system upgrade. Now let's talk shooting. When Gordon scores at least 20, he shoots nearly 59% from the field. That's way up from his season average of 53.1, and he doesn't stop there. From deep, he's nailing over 42% of his threes in those games. That's almost 10 percentage points above his career average. His effective field goal percentage, 65.3. That's elite for any position, let alone a forward who's supposed to be the third or fourth option. But it's not just about his shot going in. When Gordon scores big, defenders have to adjust. That opens the floor for everyone else. Jokic suddenly has more space in the post. Murray finds cleaner driving lanes. The Nuggets' assist rate jumps to 68.5%. That's not just ball movement, it's surgical distribution. And the fun doesn't stop there. Jokic, who basically never needs help being efficient, sees his shooting numbers go up by 5.2% on passes from Gordon. So when Gordon becomes a legitimate threat, even the MVP gets easier looks. Then there's the clutch factor. In games where Gordon scores at least 20, Denver turns into a fourth quarter execution machine. Their offensive rating in the last 5 minutes of close games hits 128.6. That's the part of the game where most teams get tense, chuck up bad shots, or turn the ball over. Denver, on the other hand, gets Gordon the ball and rides the wave. He's shooting over 62% from the field in clutch time. That ranks fourth among all forwards. And it's not just a few shots, it's high pressure, game on the line possessions. One example, Game 4 against Minnesota in the 2024 playoff. Gordon scored 27 points on 11 of 12 shooting. That's basically a human cheat code. The Nuggets outscored Minnesota by 9 during his minutes. He didn't just pad the box score, he changed the game's direction. But what makes Gordon's scoring surge so impactful is how it bleeds into his defense. When he scores at least 20, opponents average only 104.3 points per game. That's nearly 5 points fewer than their usual output. That's not just coincidental. When Gordon's active and aggressive on offense, it translates directly into his energy on the other end. He becomes even more versatile, locking up positions 1 through 5. In the 2023 finals, he had a 27-point explosion in Game 4. That performance came with him locking up Jimmy Butler. When Gordon went to the bench, Butler went off. When he was on the floor, Butler looked like he was trying to drive through cement. In that same game, Butler finished with a minus 29 in Gordon's bench minutes. That's defensive dominance, tied directly to Gordon's offensive impact. And it doesn't stop there. In the 2024 playoffs, Gordon guarded Karl-Anthony Towns in multiple stretches and held him to just 5 for 18 from the field. That's a forward guarding a center, and doing it better than most bigs in the league. Look at the advanced stat sheet. The Nuggets win over 78% of the games where Gordon drops 20 or more. Their offensive rating sits at 122.1 in those games. That's compared to the baseline of 116.4. On the defensive end, they improve too, allowing just under 110 points per 100 possessions. Their net rating jumps up to plus 12.4. In a league where teams claw for every decimal, that kind of leap is enormous. And clutch time, that's where Gordon really pulls the whole picture together. His clutch, effective field goal percentage hits 65.3. That's compared to Denver's regular clutch average of 54.9. That's an 11-point jump in the most important minutes of the game. Gordon's calm in those moments isn't talked about enough, but the numbers sure aren't shy about it. Here's what's wild. He doesn't need volume to make this kind of impact. He's not out there chucking 25 shots. He's just efficient, controlled, relentless. When he's in rhythm, the rest of the team becomes more unpredictable. Defenses can't just swarm Jokic and shade over to Murray. They have to account for Gordon popping out for a corner three or slipping inside for an easy bucket. That hesitation changes everything. And Gordon's role isn't just scoring. He rebounds, runs the floor, defends, and takes the toughest matchup almost every night. But when you add 20 plus points to that workload, it becomes overwhelming for the opposition. He essentially turns into a positionless threat. Too big for wings, too fast for bigs, too active for guards. This isn't some narrative fluff either. It's all over the data. The Nuggets don't just look better when Gordon's aggressive. They win more, score more, defend better, and close tighter. His 20-point outings are like launch codes for the team's elite mode. When Gordon gets going, Denver's offensive options multiply. Jokic can cut without the ball, knowing Gordon will hit him. Murray can operate more freely because help defenders aren't sagging off Aaron Gordon anymore. Even role players like Michael Porter Jr. and Christian Brown benefit because now the defense has to stay home on Gordon instead of rotating off him. There's no moment where Gordon becomes the top scorer on the team. He doesn't need to be. That's what makes it work so well. He's the lever that tilts the game in Denver's favor without needing to dominate the spotlight. The numbers are clear. When he scores 20 or more, Denver turns into a different animal. They're faster, smarter, more efficient, and way harder to stop. And when it happens in the playoffs, it's nearly unfair. So no, he's not their superstar, but he's the ultimate amplifier. When Jokic and Murray are doing their usual thing and Gordon jumps in with 20 plus, it doesn't just increase their ceiling, it raises their floor. They go from dangerous to unstoppable. If you're looking at how Denver wins games that matter, Gordon's big nights are like the secret weapon that everyone forgets until it's too late. Teams prep for Jokic's passing and Murray's shot creation, but Gordon's scoring, that's the blindside hit, and it lands hard. This isn't about streaks or flash in the pan nights. It's a pattern. Gordon scores big. Denver crushes. The data doesn't argue. The efficiency shoots up. The defense tightens, and the win column fills. The Nuggets know it. Opponents are learning it the hard way, and the stats have been screaming it all season. When Gordon shows up ready to pour it in, Denver doesn't just win. They turn the game into a math problem that nobody can solve. But besides them, MPJ will need to be better. Michael Porter Jr. has been one of the most intriguing variables in the Nuggets formula for contention, and right now, they need him to stop being a variable and start being reliable. His Game 1 performance against the Clippers didn't just register as a bad night, it actively made things harder for Denver. He logged 21 minutes, has 3 points, and shot 1 for 4 from the field, and the one turnover he committed stood out more than any positive impact. No rhythm, and not a single reason for the Clippers to respect his presence offensively. He got benched down the stretch. Christian Brown and even Russell Westbrook played over him in crunch time. And that's not the rotation a team sticks with if they're trying to win 4 out of 7. This isn't just about one-off night. The lineup data makes it painfully clear. Denver's starting 5 of Jokic, Murray, MPJ, Gordon, and Brown had a net rating of minus 5.3 in Game 1. The worst among all their usual combinations. When MPJ isn't producing, the entire offensive balance collapses. His spacing is what keeps Jokic and Murray from constantly facing double teams. When he becomes invisible, the paint gets crowded fast. Jokic shot 7 for 20 in Game 1, his worst efficiency mark against the Clippers all year. That's not a coincidence. When MPJ isn't drawing defenders out, Jokic faces more pressure, more help defense, and more traffic every time he touches the ball. Murray wasn't spared either. He shot 7 for 20 himself, forced into mid-range isolation shots that the Clippers were more than happy to live with. The regular season already told us this story in preview mode. MPJ shot 41.7% from deep on 7.1 attempts per game. That's elite spacing. It stretches the floor and makes the entire Nugget system hum. Take that away, and Denver's offensive rating drops from 118.9 to 112.8 when he's off the floor. That's a drop of 6 full points per 100 possessions. In a playoff series, that's the difference between winning in 6 and losing in 5. The math keeps piling on. Denver is 12-5 when MPJ hits at least 4 threes in a game. But when he scores 5 or fewer points, they're 0-3. You don't need to be an analytics wizard to figure out which version of MPJ needs to show up if Denver wants to get out of the first round alive. And it's not just the shooting. MPJ's defense, or lack of it, got put under a giant spotlight in Game 1. Norman Powell, who's been torching the Nuggets all year, got everything he wanted whenever MPJ was on the court. Powell averaged over 27 points per game against Denver in the regular season, and the strategy didn't change. The Clippers hunted MPJ on mismatches, using Kawhi Leonard and Powell to force isolations. That made Denver scramble on the back end, opening up corner threes and blowing up rotations. It's the kind of defensive fragility that ripples across every possession. MPJ is 6'10", but his impact on the boards was non-existent. He grabbed just 3 rebounds in Game 1. His per 36 rebounding average is 6.8, and Denver needed that size to help neutralize the Clippers' front court. Instead, the Nuggets lost the rebounding battle 48-45. Not catastrophic, but in a game decided by just 2 points, every possession counts. With MPJ giving them 0 scoring and minimal rebounding, he was basically a warm body on the floor. That's not going to work. The defense gets stretched even thinner when he's not there to help. Aaron Gordon ends up having to cover the toughest wing assignments on his own. That's not sustainable. Gordon already handles huge defensive responsibilities. And if MPJ's not pulling his weight, Denver's entire scheme has to shift. The rotations slow down and the closeouts get sloppier. This isn't new behavior either. MPJ has a history of vanishing acts in the postseason. In the 2023 playoffs, the gap between his good games and his bad ones was wide enough to build a hotel in. In the Nuggets' wins, he shot over 42% from deep. In their losses, just 22%. And yet, when he's locked in, the impact is massive. During Denver's 2023 title run, his on-court net rating was plus 12.4, second only to Jokic. So it's not about potential, it's about consistency. MPJ's ceiling is high enough to win playoff games. His floor, though, can lose them just as easily. And there's the looming fear of regression. In 2022, coming off back injuries, MPJ fell into a prolonged slump when his confidence dipped. If Game 1 is any indication, the confidence may already be wobbling. The Nuggets can't afford for that to spiral. His game doesn't work when he's passive. He has to shoot and he has to hit, or everything starts to sag inward for Denver. So what's the fix? For starters, MPJ has to get more aggressive on closeouts. Right now, he's barely getting to the line, just 0.8 free throws per game. That's shockingly low for someone with his size and shooting gravity. If defenses are running him off the line, he's got to make them pay by attacking the rim. Right now, he's bailing them out. Defensively, he's got to use his length to make a difference. Even averaging just 0.6 steals per game, he can at least disrupt passing lanes. He doesn't have to be a lockdown guy, but he can't be a target either. If he's getting hunted every possession, his offensive contribution better be huge. Otherwise, the math breaks. The coaching staff can help too. Pairing MPJ with high motor defenders like Brown or Westbrook in staggered minutes could help hide his defensive liabilities while keeping his shooting threat on the floor. When Jokic and Murray are carrying the offense, all MPJ has to do is hit his open shots and stay active on defense. That's not asking for miracles. It's asking for competence. The difference in team metrics with and without him is massive. With MPJ on the floor, the Nuggets boast a plus 8.4 net rating. Without him, it drops to plus 1.6. The offensive rating falls by 6 points. The team three-point shooting drops from 38.1% to 34.7%. In clutch time, those brutal last 5 minutes, the team's effective field goal percentage drops from 58.3 to 51.9. When he's off the court, that's a whole lot of pressure being added to Jokic and Murray when the games get tight. And the projection models back it up. If MPJ can average just 15 points per game while hitting 40% of his threes, Denver's title odds shoot up from 35% to 52%. That's a huge jump for a player who technically isn't even the third option in the offense. The bottom line is this: Denver's success in this series hinges not just on their stars showing up, but on Porter Jr., giving them a third weapon who can stretch the floor. rebound, and play just enough defense to stay on the court. If he does that, the Clippers' defensive schemes break apart, rotations get late, and Jokic and Murray operate with space again. If he doesn't, the Nuggets are going to spend a lot of time stuck in traffic, trying to run through a wall of defenders who aren't even worried about the guy in the corner. MPJ doesn't need to be perfect. He doesn't even need to be spectacular. He just needs to be the version of himself who's willing to shoot with confidence, battle on the glass, and hold his own defensively. That player helps Denver win titles. The version we saw in Game 1, that version loses series. Simple as that. Overall, though, the Nuggets officially took Game 1, but it wasn't pretty. It wasn't clean. It was a grind. One of those playoff wins that feels like surviving more than dominating. But sometimes, that's exactly what championship teams need to do. The Clippers gave them plenty of help along the way. Turnovers were a disaster. Sloppy passes, miscommunications, and panic under pressure turned into easy points for Denver. And those turnovers weren't just mistakes. They were momentum killers. Denver kept capitalizing, turning mistakes into fast breaks and wide open looks. And when it mattered most, the Clippers coughed it up at the worst possible times. End of regulation, final moments of overtime, boom, giveaways that turned into daggers. And right in the middle of it all, Jokic, the guy just keeps finding ways to impact the game, even when the shots aren't falling. He didn't shoot particularly well, but that didn't matter. He rebounded, he facilitated, he read the floor like a chessboard. That late game calm, the patience to wait for the right angle, it's what makes Denver's offense so dangerous. It's not flashy, it's just smart. Murray struggled with his shot too, but Denver didn't collapse because others stepped up. Westbrook brought energy, chaos, and second chances. Even when he missed, he stayed active. He kept fighting, kept hunting down rebounds, and knocked down some big shots late that shifted the momentum just enough. And his defense? He closed out Game 1 with a steal that ripped the win right out of the Clippers' hands. Then there's Aaron Gordon. The guy barely shows up in highlight reels, but if you're watching closely, you see just how valuable he is. He locked things down on the defensive end and stepped up offensively when Denver needed a boost. In overtime, when Kawhi Leonard should have been taking over, Gordon made sure he didn't even get a shot off. That kind of defensive lockdown doesn't show up in the box score, but it wins games. Denver's execution in clutch time was the real difference. In the final minutes, when everything tightens up, they didn't flinch. They moved the ball, made the right passes, found open shots, and hit them. The Clippers, on the other hand, rushed. They forced shots. They turned it over. In playoff basketball, the margin is razor thin. And in Game 1, Denver played just a little bit sharper when it counted. But there's something even more important. Lurking underneath the win, Denver's formula is still very real. When Jokic and Murray start stacking rebounds and assists, they don't just play well, they tilt the entire game. Everything flows through them. They control the pace, stretch the defense, and force teams into tough choices. Do you double Jokic and risk an open three? Do you chase Murray off the dribble and leave the paint vulnerable? It's a puzzle, and when those two are in sync, it's basically unsolvable. Add Aaron Gordon scoring into that mix, and now things really get messy for opponents. When Gordon becomes a real threat, defenses can't collapse the same way. Jokic gets more space, Murray gets better looks. The whole offense stretches out like a rubber band, and just when defenses think they've adjusted, boom, backdoor cuts, corner threes, and layups. But even with all that working, Denver can't ignore the MPJ problem. Game 1 was a loud wake-up call. He's not just cold, he's disappearing. If he's not hitting shots and not helping on the glass, it puts a ton of pressure on Jokic and Murray to carry every possession. And defensively, it's even worse. The Clippers targeted him. They found him in switches, attacked the gaps, and made Denver scramble to cover. If he doesn't step it up, the Nuggets are going to have to make some serious rotation decisions. MPJ doesn't need to be the star. He just has to be reliable, hit his open looks, stay active defensively, and fight on the boards. If he can do that, the floor opens up again. Denver becomes harder to guard. The matchups favor them, and the whole machine runs smoother. But if he keeps playing like this, the Clippers will keep targeting him. And eventually, that could swing the series. Game 1 is in the books. It wasn't perfect, but it was a win. Denver did what great teams do. They survived, adjusted, and executed when it mattered. But the road ahead won't get easier. If MPJ wakes up and joins the fight, this team becomes close to unbeatable. If not, the margin stays thin. And in the playoffs, that's a dangerous way to live. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this playoffs. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.